Regina, Mater misericordiae, vita dulcedo, estes nostra salve.
The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus went up to the region of Caesarea Philippi, and he asked his disciples, "Who do people say the Son of Man is?" They replied, "Some say John the Baptist, others Elijah, still others Jeremiah or one of the prophets." He said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Simon Peter said in reply, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." And Jesus said to him in reply, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my heavenly Father. And so I say to you, you are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of the netherworld shall not prevail against it. I will give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven, and whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever you loosed on earth shall be loosed in heaven." Then he strictly ordered his disciples to tell no one that he was the Christ. From that time on, Jesus began to show his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer greatly from the elders and chief priests and the scribes, and be killed on the third day, be raised. Then Peter said to Jesus, "Aside," and began to rebuke him. "God forbid, Lord, no such thing shall ever happen to you." He turned and said to Peter, "Get behind me, Satan. You are an obstacle to me. You are thinking not as God does, but as human beings do." The Gospel of the Lord.
Upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of the netherworld will not prevail against it. When Jesus teaches us, speaks us in the gospel today, he never meant that it wouldn't be tough times in the church, or that sin would never enter into the church. Just that the evil one, that hell would not prevail over it. Not to give excuses for the sins of our own time, we must take responsibility for them. But it seems like there have been many crises in the church history, and it points both to the divine creation and that it's not a human creation. Human beings, God has chosen, to me still in a marvelous way, an amazing way, the trust he puts in us that I wouldn't even have myself. But it points to its divine creation, that even in its crises and sinfulness, the church continues on. One such time was in the 13th century in parts of southern Europe, especially France, a heresy called Albigensianism, or Cathars. And it's amazing that these Christians began to follow this heresy that began to claim there are two gods, a good God and an evil one. And they saw creation predominantly as evil, and they believed in reincarnation. As I was pondering this, I thought, how could Christians leave Jesus Christ for this heresy? Yet many, even today, abandon Jesus or distort who Jesus is. It is always good as individuals and as a church, as a parish, to ponder the question that Jesus asked in the gospel: who do they say that I am? That all-important question, who do they say that I am? You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. You are the Christ, the Son of the living God, spoke to us by Peter, this incredible truth. We get into trouble many times in the church when as individuals or a parish or leaders in the church forget this very important teaching. Who is Jesus? One thing that is always true, and if you look at church history, whenever there's a crisis, Jesus calls the most incredible men, women, and children saints as remedies. He's the actual remedy, but he raises them up in those dark times. St. Dominic, whose feast we celebrate today, was one of those saints. With Albigensianism going strongly, he preached Jesus Christ by teaching people the mysteries of the Holy Rosary, how to pray it, how to enter into those mysteries, those incredible mysteries that we celebrate all throughout the year to help us to grow in the truth and relationship and friendship with Jesus Christ. Slowly, people came back to the true faith. It did take a while. And he also began the order of preachers. We call them the Dominicans. And they were to concentrate primarily on preaching the gospel. Now, he saw there was the error. There was a great error in the church. And so this order was to preach against this error in a positive way by proclaiming Jesus Christ, truly who he is. The gates of hell will not prevail against the church, but it can get pretty hot and disorienting. May we come to know who Jesus is more profoundly, especially through praying the Rosary and through meditation on the Holy Eucharist. And may this bring healing and restoration to the church during some of our dark times. And may we have true faith and hope that, like in all dark times of the church, Jesus is calling for saints. And they may be right here in these pews. May we be open to his call.
Regina Caeli, letare, alleluia, qui ad